Nobody plans for everything to go wrong. No one wakes up and says, "Today feels like a great day to lose my job, blow through my savings, and watch every plan fall apart." And yet, this is how financial collapse usually starts. Not with reckless spending, not with bad intentions, but with timing. A layoff, a medical bill, a car that dies at the worst possible moment, a winter storm that shuts everything down when money is already tight. The difference between people who survive these moments and people who spiral is rarely intelligence or income. It's preparation. Because when everything goes wrong, you don't rise to the occasion. You fall back to whatever system you built before the crisis. So let's talk about how to build that system, quietly, realistically, and without panic, so when life hits hard, you don't go broke trying to survive it. Most financial disasters don't begin during the crisis itself. They begin months or years earlier, when everything still feels normal. That's the moment people postpone preparation. Bills are paid, income is steady, there's no urgency. But urgency is exactly what makes good decisions harder later. That's why the most important financial move happens before anything goes wrong. You need an emergency fund, not an investment account, not something tied to the stock market, not money you hope you won't need. 3 to 6 months of core living expenses, rent or mortgage, groceries, utilities, insurance, sitting in a high-yield savings account. This money isn't there to grow, it's there to buy you time. And time changes everything. Once income stops, the math changes fast. Credit cards that felt harmless suddenly become traps. Interest doesn't pause because you're stressed. High-interest debt is quiet when things are good, but the moment money tightens, it turns loud and unforgiving. That's why paying down high-interest debt early matters so much. Every dollar of debt you eliminate now is one less emergency you'll be forced to finance later. Debt shrinks your margin. Margin is what keeps a short-term setback from becoming a long-term disaster. And here's something most people don't realize until it's too late. You don't want to be figuring out your budget for the first time during a crisis. When money stops coming in, decisions need to be fast. You should already know which expenses are non-essential, subscriptions you forgot about, streaming services, dining out, impulse purchases disguised as stress relief. Prepared people don't scramble through statements under pressure. They already know what gets cut first. That clarity saves money and emotional energy when both are scarce. Financial resilience isn't about extreme measures. It's about boring, practical readiness. A pantry with shelf-stable food, beans, lentils, soup, rice, pasta, ramen, peanut butter, means fewer emergency grocery runs when cash is tight. Extra household basics like soap, paper towels, and toilet paper mean fewer surprises turning into expenses. Even something as simple as keeping a full tank of gas matters, especially during layoffs, storms, or disruptions that limit access to stores or work. This isn't fear-based prepping. It's about reducing friction when life becomes harder.
Now, let's talk about the moment everything actually goes wrong. The layoff email, the medical diagnosis, the phone call you didn't expect. Your first move shouldn't be panic. It should be assessment. Can you apply for unemployment? Many people qualify and delay applying, losing weeks of support they could have used. Can you generate short-term income? Gig work, freelance work, temporary contracts. It doesn't have to be ideal, it has to be stabilizing. And then there's the hardest question to ask, especially for independent people. Who can help? Family, friends, former coworkers, your community. Needing help is not failure. Refusing help when it's available often is. Financial resilience isn't about doing everything alone. It's about surviving without permanent damage. Here's a risk most people underestimate. Not market crashes, not recessions. Disability. More than 1 in 4 Americans will experience a period in their working life where they can't work for a year or more. Not forever, but long enough to cause serious financial strain. That's why insurance matters, not as a fear tactic, but as protection against outcomes you can't recover from alone. Health insurance, auto insurance, home or renter's insurance, disability coverage if your income depends on your ability to work. If a single event could financially wipe you out, and insurance can prevent that, ignoring it is a gamble, not a plan. You can't control when bad things happen. You can't control layoffs, recessions, or emergencies. But you can control how exposed you are when they arrive. You control how much margin you build, how much debt you carry, how quickly you can adapt, how clearly you can think under stress. That's the difference between disruption and collapse. When everything goes wrong, the goal isn't thriving. The goal is getting through without permanent damage. And this is where planning quietly does its best work. A plan doesn't prevent hardship, it prevents chaos. People who go broke in crises aren't reckless. They're overwhelmed. They meant to prepare later. They assumed stability would last. Life simply got busy. But failing to plan doesn't freeze your future. It decides it, slowly, quietly, and without permission. A written plan, your savings targets, your risk coverage, your priorities, creates clarity when emotions are loud. And clarity is what gets you through. Here's the truth no one brags about. Prepared people don't look impressive when times are good. They look cautious. They look boring. They look overly conservative. Until the moment everything goes wrong. Then they aren't scrambling. They aren't making desperate decisions. They aren't going broke under pressure. They're steady. Not because they were lucky, but because they respected reality before reality demanded it. Build your system while things are calm. So when life hits hard, you don't panic. You recover.